Welcome to Blade Mount Saga. My name is Daniel, otherwise known as Rice Combo Online, and Concrud is finally gone, so I can finally record a video for the Daggerheart GM screen that we saw at PaxU this past year. So without further ado, let's jump into today's video.
Welcome to Blade Bound Saga.
Alright, so like I said, I meant to put this video out last week or probably even the week before, just right after PAX, but unfortunately for me, I got stuck with Concrud. For those who don't know what Concrud is, it's basically all the germs that you have gathered from meeting people, shaking hands, hugs, passing dice around the table, all that stuff from meeting just a bunch of people in one single space, and you end up getting sick. Even now, I'm still kind of recovering. My voice is still not 100% there, but I wanted to get this video out. And so, once again, in today's video, we are just diving into the Daggerheart GM screen that we saw at PAX. The reason that this is going to be so important is we're going to actually start to see some of the rules for Daggerheart and that are going to be on the GM screen. Unfortunately, my biggest regret from this video and from the pictures I took, and I didn't take the picture of what the GM screen looks like on the front or what the players would see. I just took a picture of what the rules look like. But, you know, that's just hindsight. That being said, let's just jump into the video, jump into what the GM screen looks like. We'll look at the middle screen, then kind of look at the two side screens afterwards. So the GM screen is going to give us a lot of insight about what we're looking at in terms of roles, or in terms of what the game rules will look like, and hopefully those kind of quick adjustments and quick notes that you need from common issues that you see in the game, or common rulings that you just need a reminder of. So I think the nice thing about this is, just like it was in Dungeons and Dragons or any other tabletop RPG with the GM screen, this is your general go-to before you grab the rulebook. That being said, we'll just start with the top right. Difficulty, pretty easy. Daggerheart uses the D12 system. For the most part, on average, without multipliers, you're sitting around 12 to 16 as your average score. So if it's an average difficulty, it isn't going to be too difficult. Average makes sense here. Nearly impossible, 30. Though that being said, once you start hitting those level 8, 9, 10s, 30 actually starts to become pretty consistent, especially with stuff like Seraph or experience warriors with the Call of the Brave, or experienced wizards with School of Knowledge. You can fairly consistently start hitting those 30s. Next one, damage rolls. After a successful attack, roll a number of weapon dice equal to your proficiency, add them together. If the roll was a critical success, take the maximum potential of all your damage dice, add them together, and add it to your modifier to roll your damage. So cool. Nothing's changed from beta. Rolling is still going to be the weapons damage dice plus your proficiency. You add them together. I assume you're also, the one thing I noticed that it didn't add is the plus your damage modifier. So if it's a +2, +4, whatever the weapon has, that's probably what you're going to be looking at. And then critical success, you take the maximum number and then of your dice and then add it to your damage roll. So automatically, whenever you have a roll 1d8 and you crit, or whenever you crit and your damage dice is a d8, you immediately get the d8, then you roll, add that on top as the modifier to your damage roll. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. So yeah, you add the damage roll. Reaction rolls, fairly standard, same thing as beta. Reaction rolls work just like action rolls, they just don't generate hope or fear. So this could be something where the adversary is causing you to make a reaction roll, or you're doing a group roll where one person's guiding and then everybody else is making a reaction roll to see if you get a plus or minus in that guided group roll. Action rolls. So call for an action roll, the player takes an action where the outcome is in question, or the success or failure is interesting to the story. So pick a character trait, decide the difficulty, establish the stakes of the roll, assign advantage or disadvantage if applicable, and tell the player to roll the duality dice and resolve the situation based on the results. Fairly easy and simple stuff. I think I'm going to zoom in probably here just so we can get a little bit more insight, and then we'll kind of look around. A critical success, let's see. They get what they wanted and a little extra. They clear a stress, gain a hope, standard. They get what they wanted with a success with hope, and they gain a hope, awesome. success with fear. They get what they wanted, but there is a consequence. The GM gains a fear. I find that at least in play, oftentimes there is a consequence. It doesn't always happen, and it sometimes isn't applicable. And in terms of like role of play, I think as a GM, sometimes you're just like the consequence is I gain a fear, and sometimes that's a consequence enough in some fights just to kind of keep the game moving. Failure with hope, they don't get what they want. There's a consequence, but they gain a hope. Usually, I kind of do narrate from this, but sometimes in battle, the consequence that I usually impose on my players is that now it's my turn. Jump from one cliffside to the other. They'd probably take some fall damage, something like that. So, cool. Battle guide. This is one thing that I'm so glad. As some of you guys may know, I was part of the final playtest. With that, the battle guide was such a helpful feature for adjusting your scores in terms of what you want to bring to a fight. This replaces what we know in Dungeons and Dragons as combat rating or CR. Battle points essentially is 3 times the number of PCs plus 2 in the combat. So in a specific case, if I have a group of 4 players, that means I have 12 battle points plus 2, meaning I get a total of 14 battle points that I can use. So my adjustments can be with this, if I want to add a spending battle points, sorry. I'll go to the adjustment here in a second, but spending battle points I think is more applicable here. I think it might be better to switch these two. So if during pressure you're watching, I think these probably make more sense. Base battle points, spending battle points, and then adjusting the battle points. But I can totally understand the other way. But so when you have these 14 points, you can have a 5 for a solo monster, a 4 for a bruiser, a 3 for a leader, a 2 for a standard range skulker, a 1 for support, and a 1 for a group of minions, depending on the size. I also think, and so for those who are not familiar with Daggerheart, these adversary types made it really easy to kind of switch, bring creatures and adversaries into combats. You know that you can throw a solo monster, so like a boss, and then bring in a couple supports and minions, and then maybe like a bruiser. And so what do we have there? Total 5 plus 4 with a bruiser. That's 9. We bring in, say, 2 supportive units to support the solo or the bruiser. So now we're at 10 or 11, and then we bring in 3 groups of minions. So now we're at 14. So for a pretty epic battle, we have something like a solo, a bruiser, two supports, and then 3 minions. And then you have a dynamic fight with just a variety of different things the GM could throw in terms of the fight. Then you have some adjustments. So if you want it to be more dangerous, add those 2 battle points. If you aren't using any hordes, leaders, bruisers, so you intend it to be fully just like mobs or just like a standard fight in the woods, feel free to add extra adversaries. But then if you're adding extra or adding plus 1d4 to all adversaries damage. Ooh, that's interesting. So yeah, if you're adding extra damage to your adversaries, you can lower your point total to make the adversary stronger. So say you want to have one really strong solo monster, has less minions, but you have made him more difficult. So, or if you are using 2 or more solo adversaries, so like a duo, say you're fighting 2 dragons, subtract 2, so that would give me 12 points. So maybe like 2 dragons, and then it has like 2 groups of minions to get a total of 12. So battle points, one thing I really like about it is you can kind of adjust these on the fly. I've definitely run into games in Daggerheart where in Dungeons and Dragons I feel like I'm always looking for a stat block, versus in this game I can kind of just say, oh, I need a leader, scroll, found a leader, I'm going to port that, throw that down on the battlefield, and reflavor some of its abilities. So cool. A battle guide, really helpful. This helped a lot in the playtesting, and I've been using this ever since. Let's scroll down a little bit here. Using armor. So this is one of the bigger changes that we've seen. Your armor score represents how many armor slots you have. If you're taking damage, you may mark an armor slot to reduce the severity by 1 tier. You can only mark 1 slot per incoming attack. So in the previous system, say you had an armor score of 7, you would also then have a certain amount of slots depending on how many points you added to your level, depending on the type of armor you have. So in the previous system, as it sits now in beta, if you are taking 7 points of damage and you have a 7 armor score, you can spend one of your armor slots to reduce that by 7. Or say you have something like you're about to take 14 points of damage. That sits somewhere in your major threshold. So you're about to take 2 points of damage, but you use 1 armor slot to reduce that down to 7, which probably will be in your minor, realistically. I think most averages are around there. Then you're taking 1 wound, or if you use 2 armor slots, you can then bring it down to 0. In the new system, your armor score, say your armor score is 3. That means you have 3 armor slots that you can use, period. Those armor slots, you can then reduce it by 1 tier. So say you're about to take 1 point of damage, you're about to take that 7 points of damage, you can use 1 armor slot, reduce that 7, or reduce that 1 point of damage, or one hit point down to 0. Say you're about to take that 14, you can use 1 armor slot and bring that major wound down to a minor wound, so you're only taking 1 point of damage. But remember, now you, from that 3 armor slots that you had, because your armor score is 3, now jumps down to 2 armor slots left. So you can only reduce damage 2 more times. So I found that, at least in how I've run it, I felt like the game is a lot faster when you don't have to calculate as much damage with having to do the damage mitigation. Though some would say you kind of lose a little bit of the tactability of the game, but I think it really speeds it up, especially with this kind of narrative cinematic style that Daggerheart has to combats. Improved adversaries. This is actually really cool because there are 4 tiers. I loved how they simplified this. Depending on the tier that you have, that's how much damage dice you are dealing. So at tier 1, you have an attack modifier of 1. You have damage dice of 1d6 plus 2 or 1d12 plus 2. And my assumption there is a 1d6 is for like a minion or an improvised minion, and then a 1d12 is for like a bruiser improvised minion. But the nice thing about with it being a tiered system, your attack modifier at tier 2 becomes a plus 2, 2d6, 2d12, and then a couple extra bonuses. Tier 3, plus 3, 3d8. Cool, they added, it jumps up die here. So 3d8 plus 3, 3d12 plus 5. The nice thing, tier 1's 1s, tier 2's are 2s, tier 3's are 3s, tier 4, same exact thing, tier 4's are 4. Difficulty, I like that they have some stuff here for it. 11, 14, 17, 20. I will say at higher levels, at least from when I was playing in beta, 20 was very easy to hit because of things like Seraphs and Bards and Rally Dice and the advantage that you're able to help your team tag team attacks. 20 was very easy to hit. So in tier 4, I might honestly, personally, in my games, bring this up to a 22. Just because an improvised adversary, I would say 20 is a very easy number to hit. Though things might change in final rules, who knows? They might have lowered numbers for what players are able to hit. Damage thresholds, same exact thing. They tell you major 7, severe 12, 10, 20, 20, 30, and then 25, 45. So also, once again, these numbers feel fairly low. I had on multiple occasions in beta seen people hit. I think I can even go to my records. I'm just going to go to my look on another screen and go to Discord real quick. My current record for highest damage is 233 damage for 2 level 10 characters that tag team attack and critted. So pretty wild damage. Going to be very hard to beat that if I'm being honest. But that being said, I'd probably bring these up just a little bit. So yeah, Hope and Fear, I think this is probably going to be the same thing. Hope, help an ally utilize one of the experience, activate a Hope feature. I really wish that they would add the tag team attack somewhere in this so you can spend, because a lot of players, I have to tell them what a tag team attack is or like give them the option when I'm teaching. But I think if they add tag team in here, unless they removed it, which would really be rough, because that was one of my favorite mechanics that I saw. Because I guess we don't really know if they're removing tag team, but I assume they're going to keep it because that was such a fun mechanic. But I wish they would put tag team in the Hope section as well. On a Fear, interrupt a player move, that's pretty standard. Make an additional GM move, that's pretty standard. Add an adversary's experience to a roll. I definitely don't think I did this as much, and I should do this more, actually. Huh, that's cool. I'm going to do that more. Use an adversary's fear feature, use an environment's fear feature. I've used those before. Pretty standard. I'm pretty sure this was in the base game. I just never did it. And so spotlighting adversaries, when you spotlight an adversary, you might have them move to close range, make a weapon attack, move within close range, use an adversary action. So I can spotlight them just to end a temporary condition or effect. I wonder if there's extra rules behind it, because at one point in the beta, it was you need a fear to end a condition, or there are other ones where you need to make a roll to end a temporary condition. So I wonder if there's another rule behind this, or if it's literally just spotlight them and you see them are no longer stunned or something like that, and then you spend a fear to make another attack action or something like that. Sprint somewhere else on the battlefield. So this is just an agility check, but it looks like this is free now. Adversaries don't need to make it. They might have been. Once again, that manuscript's pretty big, and I might be missing out on a roll, but this looks fairly new. Character traits: standard agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, knowledge. All of this is the same from beta. So cool. Yeah, that's the first one. Oh, also, if you guys haven't noticed, this is Spencer here. This is the thing he was wearing when I took the pictures. Could be, it's definitely him. So anyways, fun fact. Let's look at it on the screen. Which one's this? So this is the left-hand side. So this is going to be on, your left-hand side. Quick reference: advantage, add a d6. Disadvantage, subtract a d6. Help an ally. Spend a hope. Interesting. Okay, so they added the where to spend hope twice. So they had the hope and fear section here, but then they also add a quick reference here. So, okay, that's good. Spend a hope, roll a d6 die to add to their roll. If more than one advantage die is being used, they only take the highest result. So if there is stacked advantage, you can take the highest result of that advantage. That's cool. I didn't know that. Unless that's new, that's cool. I didn't know that. I'll definitely take that into consideration. Group action. So this is what we talked about earlier with reaction rolls. So reaction rolls don't generate hope and fear, and so in reference to group actions, everyone else is making reaction rolls. So if it's a success, the leader gets a +1. Any failures, the leader gets a -1. I also added, I guess, I don't know if this is part of the rules, but I always made it if someone critted, then they got a +2, so it adds a little bit extra. But yeah, so after everything else, the leader then makes the action roll, including these two modifiers. And so this action roll, from how I've ruled it and from what I understand and talking to other GMs, that one action roll from the leader does generate hope and fear. Tag team rolls. Tag team is still in the game. That's awesome. At any point, you can choose to spend 3 hope to initiate a tag team roll with another PC. If there is a magic item that allows you to make a tag team roll with 2 other PCs, it's like the Belt of Unity or Unity Belt or something like that. But yeah, you both roll, you see who's the highest. Let's see if there's any changes. You both make separate rolls, but before resolving the roll's outcome, choose one of the rolls to apply for both of your results. On a roll with hope, all PCs involved gain a hope. Okay, that's different. On a roll with fear, the GM gains a fear for each PC involved. Okay, all right, interesting. Okay, if you tag team on attack roll and succeeds, you both roll damage and add it together to determine the damage dealt. Okay, that second part with the rolled, I think we've only made it to whichever one or whoever initiates the tag team. So whichever player spends the 3 hope is the one who gains the hope, or I gain a fear off of. But I think that's interesting that you can either get a net positive for the players or a net negative, or a net positive for the GM, I guess. Vulnerable allows any rolls against a creature to be at advantage. Okay, standard. Or the same. Condition that keeps, or restraint condition that keeps the target from moving, standard. Temporary, when a spell or condition, etc. is temporary, it means the GM must end it using a GM move. Okay, cool. So we got a little bit more clarification on temporary. That was definitely a question a lot of people had, and still do have whenever I'm looking at Discord, whether it's Darrington Press, Beacon, or whatever. Conditions: hidden, you're out of line of sight. While hidden, any rolls against you have disadvantage. If a creature moves and they would see you, and you move in their line of sight, you are no longer hidden. So this just makes it so that attacks against you have disadvantage. Drained, you can't move, but you can still take action, so you just can't move. Vulnerable, this one's just the same as here. You can, whenever you gain vulnerable condition, this means you are temporarily in a difficult position within the fiction. The creature becomes vulnerable, and players and the GM should work together to describe narratively how it happens. When you're vulnerable, all attacks targeting you have advantage. Ooh. So, temporary conditions. Oh, this is something we talked about. Let's see how to end a temporary. No requirement for a condition is temporary. You can make an action roll with a difficulty determined by the GM and try and clear the temporary condition through, though the GM might have you clear it another way. Okay, so there's options for the GM to make you clear it by other means. As always, this action should be described and negotiated narratively, fairly standard. If an adversary is affected by a temporary condition, the GM can use their move to spotlight an adversary and show how they clear a condition. This doesn't require a roll, but it does use that adversary's spotlight when it fits the story. The GM might end the condition in other ways instead. So everything, once again, very narrative focused. Also, can we talk about this? Look at this art. I don't know what all these things are. This could be like the Doombringer captain. I think I've seen this art somewhere. I think this is the... No, I think this is the Doombringer. I think this is the Dread captain or something. This looks like a spectral head. This is a serpent of some sort, but I don't remember anything in the guide for it. And then these are obviously hellhounds. Without a shadow of doubt, these are hellhounds. I wish we had better quality on the art, but once again, these are pictures taken on my phone. Skeleton, pretty standard, and I don't know what this is. Battlebox? This might be Battlebox. Battlebox is one of the adversaries that we saw in the beta. So, short rest, long rest. I'm going to try to get through these a little bit, just because this video is already at 20 minutes. Each player may swap a number of their domain cards into their vault, then choose two of the options below. They may repeat the same action twice if they'd like. The GM gains 1d4 fear. So before I think you can only do you can't do the same action on a short rest, but now it looks like you can. And then this part's nice. The GM gains fear every time you guys short rest. So that's interesting. So 10 to wounds. This is your healing. You can also do this with an ally, clear stress. You cannot do this as an ally, but it allows you to clear 1d4 stress plus your tier. I don't think that was added before, but that's nice. So if you're if you're level 1 in tier 1, you get a flat +1. If you're in tier 2, levels 2 through 4, you're gonna get a flat 2, and then plus your modifiers. Repair armor. Same exact thing as 10 to wounds, clear stress, but for armor, and you can do this to your allies. I actually think this one will be used a lot more because of how armor is now set, where it just reduces it by thresholds. Prepare. Describe what you're doing. You gain a hope. If you prepare with more members, you each take 2 hope. Always a good and fun one. Though I feel they may repeat the same action twice. Double prepare could be very strong. Especially if you're double preparing with someone else. So that means you get 4 hope on a rest. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that one yet. That one might be a little a lot. Let's see. 10 to wounds. This one heals all wounds. You can do this as an ally. 10 to all stress on long rests. Prepare armor. Prepare, same thing. This one's all armor. Prepare, same exact thing as what before. And then establish or continue to work on a project. GM might have asked for you to roll to determine how much to tick down on completion for a track. I think I skipped this. Let's see. They can do the same thing. GM gains a fear equal to 1d4 plus the amount of PCs and can advance a long-term countdown. Interesting. So for long rests, I gain a fear for each person that rests. Wonderful. That sounds so great from the GM side of things. I'm interested to see how many players try to long rest now. I'm going to try to squeeze one of those long rests out. Okay, we'll see. I'm working on a project. For some of I know that there's some questions a lot with projects. I had a couple of projects in my level 5 through 20 dragon hunting campaign. One of the projects that one of the artificer type, so it was a sorcerer, but they flavored it like an artificer. They were trying to make bombs, so I made it 1d6, and it basically was a free fireball that had a set proficiency. I'm pretty sure it was like a 2 proficiency or something like that. I can't remember. But basically, on their project, they would roll to see how well they're working on a bomb. They were also, another project they worked on was a drill arm for one of the clanks, and they worked on that project. I think I put that project count down on 36. So basically, whenever you work on a project, you roll a duality. If it's a critical success, you get 4. If it's a success with hope, I think it's 3 counts. And then if it's a success with fear, it's 2. And then on any kind of failure, it's just 1 countdown. So it would take 2 rests to fully make a bomb in the 6 countdown. But then for that drill cane, it took a lot longer. But then multiple players were working on that project at a time, so the countdown went faster than you would think. Cool. That's on the left side. And then last set, let's look at these. Let's look at this. So it looks like at this side, this is fully just for GMs. So players, go away. And I'm just kidding. You can still look at this. It's probably very helpful for players to learn the GM side of things. Once again, let's look at the art. Hydra, always fun. Knight of some kind, maybe giant. Well, giants are also players. Maybe Titan. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think I saw anything like a Titan. A skirmisher. This might be like the Sablewood skirmish character. Thistlefolk ambusher, something like that. Maybe. I don't know. And this looks like there was one that's like a great old one or like a hag style. This kind of has vibes, but who knows. Anyways, let's run through this. Moves. Make a move whenever a player rolls with fear on an action. Okay, so that means I can take a move whenever somebody rolls with fear. Cool. Whenever a player fails. Awesome. When a player does something that has a consequence. Cool. Player gives you a golden opportunity. This is very vague, and I would like a little bit more context. I wonder if golden opportunity will be explained in the actual book. But players to look to you for what happens next. Okay, so the players are like, I don't know what to do. What else is left? I can just, I guess, throw the ghost at them if the ghost is invisible or something like that. I don't know. Who knows? We'll kind of see if there's a little bit more guidance to this in the book. GM principles begin and end with the fiction, narrative focused. Collaborate at all times, especially during conflict. I'm always asking my players what they see. It's one of my favorite parts about these. What's it called? The quick start is they had those questions like, one of you is driving a cart. Which one is it? Or you walk into the tavern. What do you see? What do you smell? All those questions those were always some of my favorite stuff. Fill the world with life, wonder, and danger. Fairly normal stuff for a GM. Ask questions and incorporate answers. I love doing this at the beginning of sessions and session 0. Make every role important. Cool. Play to find out what happens. GM, my philosophy is typically set up scenarios. Don't set up answers to those scenarios. Hold on gently. I think this means like have an idea in your head, and then if your players go with something that's better, let go of your previous idea and grasp a hold of theirs. But kind of vague a little bit. Best practices. I don't really know what the difference is between GM principles and GM best practices, but we'll see. Cultivate curiosity or curious table. Gain your players' trust. Oh, okay, I understand. So this is probably like out of game stuff versus in game. Okay. Keep the story moving straight. Cut to the action. Help the players use the game. Help the players use the game. Just clarification of wording might be best. Create a meta conversation. Still kind of hard to determine exactly what that means. Tell them what they would know. Ground the world in motive. Bring the game's mechanic to life. Reframe rather than reject. I like that wording. Reframe rather than reject. And work on moments and montages. Cool. Some example GM moves show how the world reacts. The kick shatters the door. Light spills from the barracks as half a dozen sleepy soldiers stumble to their feet looking worried. Okay, I like that wording. Ask questions and build on answers. How is it that you notice the assassin lurking in the treetops? This is literally my favorite thing about Daggerheart is asking players what they notice about seeing stuff like this. I'm so glad they're including this stuff on like how to encourage GMs to use this part because it's so different from Dungeons and Dragons, where for the most part the GM's the one doing most of the heavy lifting, but this time I'm like giving it to my players to kind of help me build. This is just so much fun. Make an NPC act in accordance with their motives. When the scene includes characters other than the PCs, you can spotlight what these NPCs are doing in response to the PC's actions. You might show a friendly NPC helping in a fight, a group of townsfolk taking cover, or an enemy moving positions. Make sure their actions always flow towards their motives. Okay, that makes sense. Lean on a character's goal to drive them. The governor's husband lies groggy on the altar as the cultists continue to chant. The ritual is coming to a climax earlier than you expected. What do you do? This is my favorite. One of my general go-tos in narrative or narration whenever I'm giving examples to other players or other GMs who are trying to learn the system is my narrative is always like, and this is my go-to example. The Skeleton Lord takes his blades and strikes at the Guardian player. The Guardian player then decides what they do with their health. Then I look at the Guardian player. I'm taking this blow and I'm seeing the drips of blood drop to the ground. How do you wish to retaliate? Or how do you wish to respond? And so really kind of taking at the fact that like something just happened to them. How is that specific player adjusting? And then oftentimes what I'll do is like after the Guardian attacks, I'll then turn and like shift the spotlight and ask the players. It's like you seeing your guardian or seeing the guardian player engage in a fight with the skeleton lord. Which one of you wishes to come to his aid? And then kind of responding to maybe more of a general group, but having them kind of push based off of what we just saw. Signal an imminent off-screen threat. You hear the crashing of falling trees and shattered branches as thundering steps approach. What do you do? Reveal an unwelcome truth or unexpected danger. He reaches into a cloak and produces an orb of vengeance as you realize that he was the necromancer the entire time. That sucks, but that's so, like, I don't know, like, that just feels so bad for the players to discover that then. That's cool. Unexpected danger. Force the group to split up. The elementals are scattering, heading into town. Wait. 2 heading for the town, 3 bearing down the mill. What do you do? Okay, I like this because I've actually found that you can run a combat in 2 separate places in Daggerheart, and there's no like issues. You can jump back and forth between scenes because you're the one who's pushing it. Like just like in a movie where there's action scenes happening at the same time, you're the one who's pushing it back, pushing the scene to different areas of the map. Make a PC mark stress as a consequence. You pull down the Baron to safety. Or you can pull the Baron to safety if you mark a stress. Otherwise, you can only get yourself out of the way. What do you do? Okay, I like that. I don't think I've ever used something like that where I've had the players like, this is a really hard roll. If you mark a stress, you just do it. I like that, though. I don't think I've ever done it, and I'm probably going to use that in my arsenal now. Make a move the characters don't see. Everything is fine for now. I do this a lot. Show collateral damage. The Minotaur barrels into the streets, shattering the vegetable cart, sending cabbages flying and knocking the merchant into the wall. Clear a temporary effect or condition. The guard cuts through the vines, holding her in place. Cool, easy. Shift the environment. The rope bridge snaps, leaving you stranded. Spotlight and adversary. As 2 skeleton guards shamble forward to strike you, you see 2 others on their flank turn their attention towards you as well. The thief slides past. Oh, sorry. Capture someone or something important. The thief slides past you and jumps into the cart, grabbing the idol from the seat and stuffing it into their pouch. And then use the backstory. Your mentor sighs, drawing their blade. I wish it did not come to this child, but you still do not understand what sacrifices are required to maintain the peace. Okay, I like that. And then take away an opportunity permanently. The door slams shut, cutting you off from the vault as the temple continues to collapse. Definitely had moments like this. Okay, so fairly basic GM principles. I think this goes hand in hand, honestly, for every game. I think the incorporation of like bringing people in is definitely more Daggerheart, and I mean Shadowrun too. There's other systems that do it. Wild Sea is another one. Wild Sea, awesome system right here. Anyways, but yeah, this is the GM screen. I'll kind of go back to the first one. This is going to be probably your main hub of what you're going to be using. If you get the limited edition, you get this as part of the limited edition box. It has the nice cover art on the front. I wish I took a picture of it, but I didn't, sadly. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this kind of gleaned a little bit more insight as to what we can expect about the final rules. And actually how I'm going to be running games moving forward, because there's no reason to run games in the old way. Oh no, I just hit my mic. Run games in the old way, since we have a lot of these new rules, especially since PAX. But yeah, that's the GM screen. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you can kind of glean this, even if you want to just take pictures and like use them as references in your own games just for now. Feel free to take screenshots. If you join the Discord, I'll have these screenshots and I can send them to you directly if you don't want to take like a screenshot of your screen with my face on the side. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe down below, like the video, comment, share this with some people. The next video I'm going to be coming out with is going to be Beast Feast. I have so much information about Beast Feast. I'm starting a Beast Feast campaign in the 2025, and then I also have already run Beast Feast games. So I'm excited to share with you the campaign frame that they had, as well as more of the rules for that in the next video. So with that being said, I will see you guys later. Yeah, bye.
From ink and steel, stories are forged. We are Blade-bound Saga.